You're listening to Season 2 of Beyond Insights, your go-to podcast for all things accounting, business, and technology. Unsure how to improve your leadership skills, or whether you're suited to being a leader to begin with? Looking for ways to build a stronger team or take better risks? Then stay tuned.
From cybersecurity, blockchain, and AI innovations to sustainability, employee retention, and work-life balance, we've got you covered.
We speak to knowledgeable and insightful guests from varied backgrounds, industries, and locations from all around the globe.
From this multiplicity of thought, we strive to find solutions to our most urgent business problems.
Whether you're a small business owner, an accountant, entrepreneur, or even a young professional looking to progress, this podcast is for you.
Thank you for tuning in. Let's dive right in and go beyond insights.
Caleb Jenkins is a business and accounting leader at RLJ Financial Services in Modesto, California. He is a winner of the 40 Under 40 in the accounting profession from CPA Practice Advisor and a volunteer for the SALT program. Caleb helps clients to reduce their taxes, automate their accounting, and define their vision, mission, and purpose. Caleb has also been recognized as Pro Advisor of the Year by Insightful Accountant, an Excellence Award winner for Philanthropy by Accountix USA, and many others. Caleb is a regular podcast guest on multiple shows, and he's also written articles or been featured in Accounting Today, CPA Practice Advisor, Insightful Accountant, Modesto B, Firm of the Future, and Receipt Bank. Today, we are talking about the role of philanthropy in accounting. Let's get into it. So, as we mentioned earlier, Caleb Jenkins is joining us today. Welcome, Caleb. It's really nice to have you as a guest on our podcast.
Hey, it's my privilege and pleasure to be here with you.
Excellent. So, as we mentioned, we're speaking about philanthropy in accounting today. And the first thing that I'd like to know from you is, how did you get into accounting, and how did that eventually evolve into being very involved with philanthropy?
Yeah, so I got into accounting after my dad's an accountant, so I literally and practically grew up in the accounting world. First 10 years of my life, my dad's office for the accounting firm was at our home location, a separate building, but it was at our home location. I was homeschooled, so I would, once I was finished with school for the day, I'd commonly go out and to the office and probably annoy everybody in the office. I was out there, but I enjoyed that, and so that's kind of how I got my start into it, and later it turned into an official thing. That's a little bit of a nebulous date and time because it was like eventually our HR person said, "Hey, we need to get Caleb on payroll because he's been doing work here." So so that's my official start date. But how did that connect to philanthropy? Well, also connected would be my dad taught me from an early age a couple different things. One was a lot around financial and money habits, but one of them was the first thing when you earn money is you need to give, and then you need to save, and then you can spend from what's left, and so he started us with the envelope habits and whatever. With back then was mostly in cash, and so I'd get $10 and whatever. We'd put money in the giving envelope, and we put money in the saving envelope, and money in the spending envelope, and later it turned into a couple additional envelopes beyond that, and et cetera. And then eventually it turned into checking accounts and debit cards and credit cards and so forth. But the philanthropy started from a habit and a lifestyle of giving financially. And when you give financially, a lot of times then that translates into from a biblical perspective. And I'm a Christian, I'm a follower of Jesus, and from Jesus taught in Matthew that where your heart is, or where your treasure is, there will your heart be also. So where your money is, or where you're treasuring things, that's where your heart's going to be. So philanthropy is directly tied to your money. It's directly tied to your heart. And so once you connect those two pieces together, that it's becomes part of that story. So then later, in my later teens, I started volunteering for a couple different organizations. One of them in particular was a financial organization that was doing micro lending and savings groups, and I got involved with them. And I took a trip to Haiti, and they asked me to just kind of oversee, or kind of not oversee, but to see what they were doing in the program and give feedback. And so I did that. And then on that first trip, they asked me if I would be their accountant. And I'm like, no, I have a full-time job. But then they kept kind of pressuring me, and I thought I could help them with getting some stuff set up and organized for them. And then over that translated into about 10 trips over the last 10 years to Haiti, and then been to a number of the other countries that they've gotten involved in. So and I've done a lot of remote work with them in about 26 countries and so forth. So it's been a tremendous joy, and it's changed my perspective on a lot of different elements. So a lot of the different pieces of philanthropy, my mindset has been shifted by the work that's been done there. When we really go to understand the root of what poverty is, poverty can be classified into two different key categories. One of them being that one type of poverty is crisis or critical poverty. That's like when there's a disaster or war or famine or something happens to you. Or the other type is chronic poverty, the thing that's been there for generations. And so in that situation, you respond to chronic poverty in a different way, or we should respond to it in a different way than we do with crisis or critical poverty. And so that was all of those lessons and translate into all kinds of other learnings that I've taken and applied back into my daily life, and applied back into my even the work that I do at my firm, RLJ Financial Services, and there's lots of intricate lessons all tied together there. So yeah, it's been a joy, it's been a pleasure and a privilege of mine to be able to take what God has gifted me with and to give it to others and be a blessing in other people's lives.
Yeah, I mean, that's such an inspiring story. I think it's always difficult to get involved if you don't know how, to an extent. But once you start, you realize that there's such a big need for it, and it sort of just stems from that need, and then you can actually go and do the important things in the world. And I mean, this has also led to a lot of things in your career. I know that Accountex gave you an award for excellence in philanthropy. It's a massive deal. What did that recognition mean to you? Because it sounds like you obviously aren't doing it for the recognition. You're doing it because you feel the need to, and you were taught to do it as well. It's a habit of yours in a good way. But I mean, the recognition, it is nice that Accountex is recognizing this.
Yeah, I mean, so that was about almost 10 years ago, probably, that I got that award. So it's a while ago, but it definitely meant a lot to me then, and it still means a lot to me now. It was yeah. I mean, it's a big deal then, and it was something that taught me, hey, other people really pay attention, other people appreciate the work that's being done in philanthropy as well. So that's kind of, it was great for the reinforcement that I'm doing a good thing, or something that other people appreciate the work that others are doing, and people also appreciate somebody that is philanthropic in nature, and they don't always love people that are just takers from everyone. So, yep.
No, I fully agree with that. I think that's a really good thing to also note and think about. But I mean, as an accountant, you mentioned earlier that they just put you on the payroll eventually because you're spending so much time there. A lot of people think of accountants as people who are busy with numbers and compliance, but you've now shared with us that you've literally been using this as a force for good. So where do you think the intersection lies between accounting and philanthropy? How do we connect those two, and do you think they are connected?
Well, there's two parts of, or maybe more, but at least two parts of philanthropy. One would be money, and one would be time. And so the intersection, the accounting piece, definitely we are directly involved and intertwined with the money component. So if you do taxes for your accounting career, while you're helping people with their one form of some people might not call it giving, but a form of giving to government. And then as well, there might be deductions involved for your charitable giving and so forth. So we're always looking at that and helping people with their giving strategies and so forth. So that would be one piece of it, how it's intertwined or intersected. But then the time aspect is maybe a little bit more nuanced in how they are intersected there. I would say it requires focus and diligence on that side, and it requires a good leader to recognize the need for philanthropy and to allow and to encourage individuals on the team, whether you're in a small business or if you're a solopreneur, well, then just taking the time and making the time. And then the other piece of it again is other people appreciate it. So you don't need to necessarily be afraid to share what you have done for others in a philanthropic way. So,
Good answer.
That's a basic answer for what the intersection is.
I think it's great. It's nice to also, expand my own knowledge. I'm an accountant, and we try to do good onto others, right? But we forget that our jobs also actually include a massive part of it. I think you mentioned a lot regarding taxation, etc. But what are the misconceptions that people might have about accountants and their role in charitable giving, and how we actually can do it and help others to do it as well?
Well, I think one misconception would be that some people have is that they don't need to give. And I think that goes back to my earlier comment about individuals that are more just takers in nature. And so those that are just takers from society, they don't recognize the need to give. And that's sad, because they're missing out so much on what life is. The other misconceptions are that you have to do it full time. So you don't have to just go become fully involved in a nonprofit or something else. Like you can augment and that work into your daily work and daily life. And it does not have to be something that you have to go and take what you're doing in tax and accounting or whatever other role you serve in your business and then go serve in the food line at the soup kitchen. Well, that could be good and that could be great, but is that really utilizing the gifts and talents that you're uniquely gifted with? Maybe not. So I would say find a way to use what you're uniquely gifted and talented to do to be able to bless others with those talents. And so that might be in the way of helping a nonprofit with their bookkeeping, or helping a nonprofit with their accounting, or maybe you're a good speaker. Well, being a voice for those nonprofits, or being a voice for the voiceless, or again, utilizing whatever gifts and talents you have to be a blessing for others.
Yeah, I love that. It's just thinking about the Venn diagram of yourself as a person, and not necessarily seeing it as a very structured thing. I think we have a lot of preconceived ideas about how giving should happen, and if I can't do it full time, I'm doing it wrong, or if I'm not working the line at the soup kitchen, I'm doing it wrong. But if I have something that can actually benefit others and I'm already good at it, or I've been trained to do it, for example, it's actually more beneficial to use those talents and training to help, because you're already good at it and other people might not be. So you should do what you're suited for. And on that note, which guiding principles do you use for yourself when you're trying to decide where to focus your efforts? Is there a specific cause that speaks to you, or how do you decide where you spend your time and money?
Yeah, I would say there's a couple different pieces. One is as a Christian, I would focus on generally those who have a Christian background as a philanthropic nature. So that would be my guiding principle, you might say. But then the cause piece, I would say, really for me, it revolves around the financial side, money side, and so there, or a connection in that would be education as well. So I would say that those would be directly intertwined. So one of the other pieces that I've been involved in is as a treasurer of a startup college in Boston. And so that would be volunteer basis as well. But that fits the educational nature of it. And then the other side of it would be the work that I've done with like the SALT program internationally, and that it definitely serves the both pieces, the money and the spiritual side of it as well. So I definitely, I would say those would be two of my guiding principles and causes. But anything that has financial nature to it, or education as well, would be probably my two primary causes that I would be involved in.
Oh, I think that's good guiding principles for all of us. I mean, focus on what you already can do, your own job, and then focus on the future of the world, right? In education, in the youth, you can teach them valuable things that they can then go and teach other people or utilize in their own homes and their own lives. So
absolutely
focus on what you can do and focus on the future. I should be writing this down. I'm making notes on this side. Then moving on to some technology-based questions. You are known for being very, very tech savvy. So how has technology changed the way that accounting firms can actually engage in philanthropy and reach out to more people to do good in the world?
Yeah, so I mean, technology is very critical. I mean, being able to track things appropriately. So utilizing software for your accounting, like QuickBooks or Xero or something, is a great system. There's also third-party apps that will help to automate different pieces, from receipt collection to spending habits, or monitoring your spending or monitoring your financials, like Syft Analytics is a great tool for that too. But those would be some of the pieces. The way it's changed is just giving insights and information to best direct our what's working, what's not working in terms of philanthropy. And then as far as the specific tools, that would be, I would say there's a couple different programs. I forget the exact name of it, but I think it's B2G Good or B2 Good or something. It's a couple different individuals I follow are big promoters of it, and basically it's just a component of whatever revenue you earn as a firm. A percentage of that goes to doing good and whatever that case may be, and then you can promote that on your website and promote it on your advertising marketing resources as well. And people appreciate working with a firm again that is accomplishing good in the world. So yeah, I would say those would be a couple of the pieces there.
Yeah, those are great suggestions. Is that thing you mentioned last almost like when you see on branding or marketing, they say 10% of all our revenue goes to this and this cause? Is that similar to what you just described? So there's essentially an app for that or an organization for that?
Yes.
Actually,
yep.
That makes sense. Someone doing the admin behind it. Okay. Very, very cool. Pro tips for all our listeners. I really like it. I mean, what would you say to firms that are hesitant to engage in philanthropy because they see it as a cost rather than an investment? We spoke a little bit about all the envelopes, and if they see philanthropy as a cost envelope instead of an investment envelope, how would you handle them in a discussion?
Well, I mean, from a money giving perspective, they might be right in the sense that it falls onto the profit and loss as an expense rather than on the balance sheet as an asset. But
That is true.
but that's where the financial statement gets it wrong, and is because while it is money in the money sense or in the time or in the time situation as well, it is both a cost in one sense, because it is taking something away from you, but it's rather there's two pieces that it would fall into the investment category, and that would be, what is it accomplishing for someone else, and then what is it accomplishing for yourself too. And so there's both accomplishing good for others. So you might be, maybe there's somebody in a place that has no clean water, for instance, and you help by drilling a well for them, or donating to do that, or even volunteering your time to help with that project. And so they then come along and you now have solved something for somebody else, and you've given the ability for somebody to be able to eliminate diseases that come in water, that do all kinds of other challenges with that. And so you have improved others' quality of life as well as yourself. Once you realize what you've done for somebody else, generally you are encouraged and motivated to double down your efforts in everything else that you do in order to experience that feeling again the second and third time, and fourth and 10th and 100th and so forth time. So just keep doing it, keep going, whatever. Originally it might feel like a cost if you're not seeing the fruit of your investment, but over time you will start to realize that as it shifts from a cost to an investment.
Yeah, it's almost changing your perspective on what investment is, right?
Yep.
It's in that sort of sphere. It sounds like you are saying that going to all this effort to do good in the world, which is something I fully agree with, and I think we should all be doing, it could actually strengthen relationships with clients, employees, partners. Have you found this to be the case?
Oh yeah, I mean, it changes the nature of the conversation. So instead of just being about getting that next financial statement completed and getting that next tax return done and getting the next client onboarded and so forth, it changes the nature to, what are we doing? Why are we here? And how are we going to accomplish that? And so it really brings out the humanity in the relationships. And so then it translates from just being the core numbers and core factual details to become the holistic view of what a person is.
And that's, in the end, what is important, right? One of my favorite teachers used to say, we're working with humans. And she would say it about anything and everything, but it's something that I remember to this day, and it also applies in this situation. We're working with humans, and once we put the humanity back into it, the relationship is better, the business is better, everything just makes more sense. Yeah. Do you have a specific example of how philanthropy has actually had a measurable impact within your work?
Yeah, I mean, back to the lessons of chronic and critical poverty. One of the, so this is a lesson I brought back and implemented within my life, but is trying to understand and realize the again, categorizing need into two different buckets, whether it's chronic or crisis. So take, for instance, somebody that has a reconciliation discrepancy on their accounting system. Well, I could just jump in and fix it for them. That would be maybe what I would do in a crisis situation, but a chronic situation is they do it every single month, and if I just go and fix it for them every single month, I'm just perpetuating the problem rather than actually trying to solve the underlying root cause, or that is resulting in the surface symptom that is showing up as a reconciliation discrepancy. So maybe I should spend a little bit of time and try to dig into the audit trail to see, are they deleting transactions? Are they modifying transactions, etc.? So that would be a piece. Is philanthropy has changed my mindset of what, and particularly in areas of categorizing need into different buckets.
Yeah, no, that's a great analogy for accountants. I love this. I'm going to use it because it's such an excellent example of how we tend to approach work as well. Like if it's a once-off thing, we just sort it out. But if it's happening all the time, we need to actually go and have a look about why it's happening and what is causing it, so that we can address the root cause. And I didn't even think in my life to connect it to philanthropy, so I'm definitely learning a lot here. But I mean, on this, as you were saying, if there's a bad thing leading to this chronic misreconciliation on a monthly basis, are there any other dangers of doing good or bad things that can happen from being too involved with philanthropy?
Yeah, so I would say in general, this is a little bit harder of a question because sometimes we just need to get started. And so this question is not talking to those who haven't started yet, but rather to those who have been doing philanthropy work. And eventually, sometimes we can puff ourselves up for the work that was done. And it can change our mindset to thinking that we are the agents of change and that others just need our money or just need our investment or need our talents or our skills or our abilities and etc. And really that's a savior complex that that should not exist. We should just be continuing to give in a way that helps others and accomplishes the end goal without thinking that we are the catalyst for all of the change that is happening. Some of that stuff happens in spite of us or around us, or it has no direct correlation to us. It just maybe we were involved in the good that was being done. And so if we can avoid that danger of thinking that we were the solution to the problem, that is what is very critical on this topic.
Yes, that makes sense. And I think it links quite closely to what can happen in a society and in organizations where corporate social responsibility is actually a compliance issue. You need to now show how much you've done for society and poverty, etc., etc. What shifts are you seeing in how accounting firms are actually approaching their corporate social responsibility? Has it changed in the last few years? Do you think we're getting closer and closer to that? They just need our money and our time, or are we actually a bit more cognizant of why we're doing it and if we're doing it correctly?
I would say comparing it to 20 years ago, it's probably better than it used to be. Although it may be shifting back in a negative way right now, just with the winds of political changes and etc. But I'm hopeful that in the long term it will continue to advance. But yeah, I think it's gotten a lot better, especially from a big corporate perspective. The problem with that, though, that I would say is if it's just a corporate initiative, does it really meet the heart nature of accomplishing good, or is it just to check a box off on your checklist? Like if you're just checking a box on a checklist, you're not accomplishing anything.
No, I think there are numerous examples to mention in that realm. It doesn't really help you to go and gift 1,000 computers to people who don't have running water, if you understand what I'm saying. It's that, and I think that can very easily happen in a corporate environment where it's a checklist exercise. Not saying that all corporates treat it that way.
Or you could even hurt the people, because maybe they have no computer skills and they just end up maybe they end up wasting their time on the computers playing video games or doing something else or wasting it all on social media. And when in reality, they need to be getting out there and fixing their water situation so they could get struck or get in a circular system where they are just stuck in a system. And I think we do need to think about that strategically, about what are the steps on the ladder, or the steps on the to climb on what is the first thing that people need. And I think one of the first things there is clean water, and then good shelter is another category. But at that same time, think about it in the situation of how have they been in this situation for, is it just a recent incident, or has it been generations too? Because if it's been generations, somebody else as an external individual or external financial money coming in to just solve the problem doesn't actually solve the underlying root problem, because there might be a lack of education involved in there too, that somebody might have the wrong worldview, that they think that they're the cause for the problem, and so they might not have any hope for any change. So maybe somebody comes in and solves the clean water problem, but they never had hope for it, so they just go and demolish the situation that fixed the problem for them. So you have to be very careful and methodical on how you think about what you're doing for your giving strategies, and make sure that what you're giving is actually getting to those in need as well. That would be one of probably the biggest pieces of advice is not all forms of giving are created equal.
Oh, that's important to note. It goes back to that chronic versus critical that you were mentioning earlier, and also thinking about yourself as a responsible giver, not just giving away, thinking about how you're actually going to do it in a structurally sound manner, and to ensure that it actually does help and not harm. Very important, your onus that rests on us. We've spoken about the corporates now and their corporate social responsibility, but what would your advice be to young accountants or small firms that's trying to get more involved with philanthropy and doing good in the world? What is an easy first step if we don't really know where to start?
Yeah, what I would say is first, understand and realize what you're good at first, and then two is look around you to see, is there somebody in your local community that has a nonprofit of sorts, whether it's a legit 501c3 in the United States, or whether it's just a group of individuals trying to accomplish something good or whatever, and see if that fits your gifts and talents and abilities and something you're interested in, and then see if they need help with whatever you're gifted with. And so most people won't turn you down, and so if you're able to give both on the time and the financial side, I think you will start to see your mindset shifting from getting to rather giving.
Sound advice. We need to say nothing more on that. And for you personally, what's next? Do you have any exciting initiatives or projects on the horizon? What's happening?
Oh yeah, there's always plenty of stuff to work on and to plan towards. But I hope to have a international trip again this year for the SALT program. I don't know exactly which country yet. Might be one of the countries in Southeast Asia, or maybe into Africa even. So we'll see. I've not been to Africa yet, so it'd be kind of cool to come down to South Africa and see you all there. So
please come visit.
We'll have to see. I don't know exactly what that looks like yet. As far as other initiatives, I did just finish a couple of new licenses, and so that adds to a little bit of new work potential in the future on the financial side, and then I probably have a certification that I'm hoping to work on this year for it's a CKA. It's called the Certified Kingdom Advisor credential. So yeah, that might be something that I'm planning to work on this year.
Oh, that's very exciting. It's lots of things that you're busy with. Very busy man. If you do find your way to Africa and to South Africa specifically, it would be really nice to welcome you as well. You can come and have a look, and we can do this one in person.
Oh yeah, no, that'd be great for episode 2.
Yes, there we go. Follow up on that. And then leading into my favorite section of the podcast, just because it happens every week. I really like it. The rapid fire questions. So are you ready for them? So firstly, what's one piece of software, obviously besides Syft, that you can't live without?
I'd say probably any type of scanning app on your phone to convert pictures into high quality scans. So the one that I've been using for I used to use one called Scannable, and I shifted probably about a year ago to one called Genius Scan, and that's my primary app that I use for taking any type of paper document, or even something like in a presentation, somebody's got a PowerPoint on the slide, whatever, and I want to take a screenshot of that, whatever. The Genius Scan app will do a great job of converting that into a high quality scan, rather than just an image that has a lighting that's all bad and the image just doesn't turn out very well. But the scanning apps are great.
Yeah, I almost forgot for a second that we used to not have them. We used to live in a world without scanning apps, in the very recent past. So that was a great answer. And then, what's the best podcast that you've recently listened to?
Podcasts. I do a lot of listening to. It's probably my primary. My primary podcast that I listen to on a daily or a weekly basis would be, past couple years have been the All In podcast. And then secondarily, the one that I just recently stumbled across, it was, let's see here. It's Who's Really the Boss by Marcus and Rachel Dillon. It's a pretty good one. So yeah.
Getting good recommendations, yeah. And then, what's the most valuable lesson that you've learned about building a business?
Most valuable lesson is probably never stop learning. And because once you think you got it all figured out, it's probably the beginning of your decline or the middle of your decline. There's never time to give up, or never time to just cave in and stop. So education is critical, and education is necessary, especially in a evolving world that is consistently kicking out new innovations and new ways of doing things, from artificial intelligence to, all kinds of other new innovations that have happened in the last 5 years and et cetera, that are radically changing the way that we do work.
No, very, very valid. Then, if there's one thing that you want our listeners to take away from today's podcast, what would it be? What is the key takeaway? If you can just do my job for me and summarize everything, what do you want them to know?
What I would say is probably the thing that I would most want everybody to take away is think about what you're doing in daily life, and try to accomplish good and make a difference in other people's lives, and to be a giver, not a taker, and to try to use the talents and gifts that you're uniquely gifted with to make a difference in other people's lives, and for the good of others, and for the return that you will receive from that as well, by watching and helping and seeing other people grow in what they're doing. The book one, I just remembered what it was here. It's Mission Drift by Peter Greer. It was written back in 2014, but it was the subtitle is The Unspoken Crisis Facing Leaders, Charities, Churches, because of the mission drift that happens. So a lot of times you start out with a goal and you're thinking about that, and then you start to drift over time because you get distracted by other things. And so becoming very crystal clear on what your mission is and what you're trying to accomplish, and keeping that at the foresight for whatever you're doing over time.
Very important lesson for us all to learn, whether it be in our personal lives or in business.
Yep.
Goodness. Well, Caleb, it was absolutely lovely chatting with you today. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for teaching us everything about philanthropy and accounting and how we can get involved with it as well. And we'll catch you when you are in South Africa for a follow-up episode.
Sounds good.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Thanks for tuning in to the Beyond Insights podcast. Please like and subscribe on whatever platform you're listening to right now. And please share with any of your colleagues or friends or family members that you think might benefit from listening to this podcast. That's all from us. Until next time, see you then.